We'd like to just open the floor for questions now for all the panelists, please. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, my name is Prabhu. I'm from Citizen. I'm working in Dharamshala right now, and I just want to ask you, how do you this whole project from a corporate to a personal project? How did this transition happen? And second is, if you're doing content, you're dealing with rural areas, and you're doing content for rural. How important is localization? How important is localization for you? Localizing the content.
Okay.
It is about, you said that the villagers in the remote areas, even the tribals, are even watching the videos, giving their comments, and even playing the games. I mean, how the whole process of their education started off, by just digital green or by government sector, or how? Because DAT has been struggling to illiterate people, and you both, Chaturvedi and you both have already started the process and they are not even aware of it. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the transition, so we started initially as a part of Microsoft, and then we spun off. Essentially, the work, like Microsoft Research, is actually set up like more like an academic computer science department, as opposed to most R&D facilities of most corporates. So what we were creating had more value for public good than for the shareholders of Microsoft. And fortunately, we were able to make the transition from Microsoft into a separate NGO with support from the Gates Foundation, which came to know about our work since we were initially part of Microsoft. In terms of content localization, it's obviously very critical, right? So we partner with both governmental and civil society organizations. These are like organizations like the Ministry of Rural Development has state implementation societies like in Bihar with the Jivika, or in Andhra Pradesh with organizations like SERP, or NGOs like Pradhan, who are already working with communities. So they already have that foundation work of working with the communities, having that rapport, having some expertise. But then we provide that additional training to these 4 to 5 people in each community to produce these videos and then to facilitate their screening. We found that localization is really important, not just in terms of language, but even in terms of who's appearing in the videos. People will look at the clothing of these individuals. They'll see if they have a watch, whether they have a plastic bucket or a earthen bucket, or whether they have a paka house or a non-paka house. So all these things are really important, and that's why we really focus on training these individuals from the community who actually understand all of these nuances and dynamics more than we could. And we just train these individuals. Not everybody. It's not everybody who has to be commenting and producing videos and doing everything online, right? It's just 4 to 5 people in each district who are trained to produce videos. Each village, intermediaries who are trained to facilitate their screenings using these Pico projectors, and the rest of the communities who are just kind of watching and asking the questions, which are documented by those intermediaries. But we have found that those even tribal communities, even though it's just a smaller group, it's not everybody, people who are trained on everything, actually picks up these skills faster than you might expect, right? So like even people who have never seen moving pictures before, who have never touched a computer before, are able to pick up using Windows Movie Maker, for example, to edit these videos in just like a day's worth of time. And obviously the first iteration is maybe not of great quality, but the nature of video means that it's kind of a reflective exercise, and you watch your own videos and progressively become better.
Real quick, just on that, you mentioned about the whole learning experience. I have a video, I hope I'm able to show it, but I'll show it in time. When we first went to these places, like I said, we weren't really focused on women or the undereducated segment. But what we realized was the maximum curiosity actually came from the people who did not have that experience or exposure. And the video that you can look it up on the net as well. There's a video called Harvard Keyboard. So when we first got to these villages, the women who came to us were typically about 7th, 8th, 9th standard passed. And this woman who was very aggressive, now this is all women-clad women, they've not seen a computer. Her first question to the trainer was, why does this computer have QWERTY? Because I've learned ABCD. We didn't have an answer at that time. But that's what we were doing. We said, okay, fine, if you're that curious, why don't you look at it? Now, classic example for us is we start to learn computers by Charles Babbage is the father of computers. The computer has a CRT, keyboard, and yada yada. Doesn't matter. Today we're in an age where you get into a car, turn on the ignition, and it's working. I don't really care what's in the engine or the carburetor, is it running with diesel or petrol or whatnot, right? So this woman, she spent the first 4 hours with the computer, and she came back and recited the whole keyboard. That's when we got convinced that the curiosity is so high that they can actually, which is what I was trying to highlight. A woman who's seen a computer for the first time 2 years ago, she has more friends on Facebook today than I do. It's just curiosity. It's all intuitive. So we got plenty of examples.
That's the last year. I'm not able to guess. I'm asking you to guess.
18, I'm guessing.
My question is how we are going to create the enabling environment to scale up this technology.
Vikin, can I only request you to please take these questions because I still have Mr. Sharma who needs to.
Enabling environment for this technology?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because these Pico projectors, I think till now it's not available in India, and how these Pico projectors will replace the human extension personnel already we have. Already we are doing this through extension result and method demonstration. Now we are replacing with these Pico projectors. So how we are going to create the enabling environment to scale up this technology?
Sure. Yeah, so it's important to note that we're actually not out to replace people. And this was actually just to reflect on how, we've been working with the government 6 years ago. This would be the fear, right? So 6 years ago, we would be in a meeting with some Department of Agriculture in Maharashtra, and some of the people would feel like we don't want Pico projectors because it's going to replace us, right? Even though we would say that it's not. Now the various government people that we work with actually understand our model better and realize that what we're trying to do is actually not to replace them, but rather to improve their efficiency. So the extension agents are still really important. Like the people who are sitting in the Krishi Vigyan Kendras, those extension agents have a lot of expertise and information that can provide input for the videos that get created, right? So it's about trying to find out how you can leverage people so that you can use their core competency, but use it so that you can improve their efficiency through technology. And that's why our whole approach is really about partnership, because these Pico projectors aren't just screening these videos automatically in the villages. There's a human mediator who's super critical to actually facilitate a dialogue between what the people are watching on video and themselves, right? And that's where they pause, rewind, ask questions. And what the videos provide is some consistency in the messaging, right? Because some of the extension agents may be saying variable things or may not know everything, but the video actually serves as a first step, a capacity building tool for the extension agents, and then secondarily, a communications tool that they can use as a part of their existing workflows. So that's really how technology is used. It kind of goes together with Mr. Mutkal's point, which is, technology is not the silver bullet. You need to find out where there might be a bottleneck in these existing systems, but not set out to get rid of that system. We still need to partner with it, and then think about where technology might have a role in improving the efficiency or broadening the participation of these systems that already exist.
Yes, sir.
Purely diagnostic services. By virtue of the internet, by virtue of the information bias that we have there, so typically the women who are working there are also trained. So for example, one of the things that we do in the EPOs is medical transcription. By virtue of that, we can train them as just nurses, right? And they then end up getting the patients into the centers and do a diagnostic service by virtue of linking the patient up to the, connecting with a doctor via Skype and webcam, right? So purely diagnostic, what we've been able to accomplish is, get people and, answer questions such as, whether you have malaria or not. So that, ends up saving a lot of travel time.
In terms of giving education or doing the real-time testing at this help desk?
Purely diagnostic. So we don't do anything like, it's typically when you put up a plus sign, people then end up thinking it's
And you
class
gave the
level.
training to these women on which curriculum-based model?
So this is currently being tied up with a couple of hospitals. So Vedanta actually was one of the hospitals in Mallet and GV hospitals in Rohtak Road. And
from the public sector side, we have ANMs and ASHAs doing the same job.
Possibly. So
I'm just asking, you had developed your own system with the private hospitals. And
yeah, with the private hospitals. So this came as a byproduct of us already having the internet, already having this, and we realized So unfortunately, I lost my dad in 2011 in Vedanta. Doctors got really curious. So as a part of that, we said, okay, why don't we start experimenting something like this? We've got the footfalls, we've got the people, we have the awareness. Why don't we actually start to get people in and we do purely diagnostic services? And that's where we are so far. We've not actually expanded this because this is one of the gray areas where the moment you start to get into prescription and medicine is when you run into a lot of legal. Exactly. So that's where we've stopped it at that. That's why I really talk about the student help desk, the farming help desk, the rural XPO, which we call it, and the renewable energy. Those are the real focus areas. Medical diagnostic help desk is purely something that we do based on need.
I would just suggest that since you have started the process and you are enabling people and women to go on to it, utilize services of public sector people that you will not have need of.
Absolutely, would love to, and that's exactly the whole idea of coming here, and would love to.
Thank you, Ajay. Any other questions, please? So we'll take 3 or 4 questions in a group and then have the panel address them. Yes, sir.
My question to Mr. Mudi. Now, the question of the rape issue happened in Delhi. The people raised voice in different places. The reason was the trust in judiciary. That there was a lack of trust in judiciary. You have lack in the ICT. You see that I have a very pessimistic idea about the ICT doing welfare to the country. Okay. The reason is that you don't know the power of the ICT, how it has helped the people in the world, and how it's helping the country. In education, you find in medicine, like my friend Chitravati has diagnostic, you find the people in villages don't have a doctor to assess very quickly, and such an effort of this can do a wonderful job. I think you are undermining this thing. How you come to this conclusion, I'm afraid. My point of view, and I ask you, how you come to this experience? You have visited so many countries, you have talked to so many people. How you have got this idea that ICT is not going to help the people where the people are going into it?
I think, in all fairness, you didn't hear me right. I said in the end that will it work? Yes, of course it will work. But will it work now? It will never work in a situation like this. Because you see, the question is, let me just come to the serious issues. You see, today's paper Mint has an article written by Mr. Maria, and there's another article written by Harsh Mandar in today's Hindustan Times. And those are very interesting, both very interesting articles. I mean, these are guys who thought about these issues. Now, what Harsh Mandar's article just mentions in 2 lines is that human trafficking is huge in this country. Women who are picked up, stolen, abducted, kidnapped forcefully every day in this country are in thousands. Okay, so now, of course, it is very important for us to make, this kind of show, and particularly solidarity for a rape victim in Delhi. But we should also understand the enormity of the problem that we are facing. And the enormity of the problem is also when you join it with what is called the spin doctoring of the government, where you say that, this 1,76,000 crore, let me just calculate, it comes to 0 on a television studio. That is called spin doctoring. When you can convert night into day, day into night, hide behind technology and say that this is good. You see, my objection is to that. I do believe that one day, हमने तो जासूसी कहानियाँ पढ़ी हैं बचपन में, जिनमें लिखा होता था घड़ी में देखा उसने, और वो ज़माना दूसरा था. But that watch, I'm sure, will work, and I hope it works. But the fact of the matter is that you need a lot more for the technology to come to your aid, and that lot more will not come from the retreat of the government from public services in the name of private public partnerships, but it will come by more governance in the form of better schools, more sanitation, more drinking water. That is the basic.
I just want to discuss the same matter, which is a hot topic in Delhi regarding the rape. And Mr. He is telling that we need a better laws, and this technology will not helpful at this point of time. And I have 2 points in that. One is positive and negative. On positive side, I would like to say that technology will definitely come to people's help. If you go to the statistics, thousands of millions of people's lives saved by technology, especially ICT is very useful on that. And you point out that one watch, which can trigger the alarm so that people may come. It is not useful, but see in a different way. It may be useful also, right now also, because the thing is, if you trigger an alarm, you need some people to pick the call. That is correct. If there is a failure, there is no point. But also at the same time, you can make a beautiful security system where the call is not all the way to the police department and they are sending a patrol to the place, and by then everything will be over. That's already there, right? So it may be failure in one point of view, but if you have some local security poles in the local areas, like streetwise or area-wise, within few minutes or within a minute, help can be reached there. So it will be possible. But my one question is, there should be a need in change of mind in people's mind. Why 3 guys seeing a girl in the bus just want to rape her? Why it's coming on the people's mind at first base? Why is not thinking anything else there? So there is basically, there should be a change in the point of view. A person is seeing a girl is not
yes, sir,
in a very bad manner, right? That is a change that people are also to be educated. In that way, government and ICT may be helpful to educate the people to change the views, to improve their thoughts. That's what my point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One last question, please.
Should I?
Yes.
Should I reply to?
Sure.
Yeah. Actually, you're absolutely right, and we join you in what you have actually told. Maybe Vipul can also throw some light on it. Basically, technologies and even the forces, there is a limit to everything. You can't expect that overnight changes would be incorporated. I believe what my friend was also talking and what the need of the hour is, everything doesn't happen overnight. Things change. But yes, the change in the psychology or moral fabric of the society is very important. Why such lunaticism and such things still prevails when we have gone so far ahead, so far as technology, other things are concerned, and why the system only rises up when there is some uprising, not before that. Why there are many questions and things need to be answered. But regarding the whole issue, because I know the discussion has gone towards the other side, the swing has taken towards this debate, mini debate kind of situation. I would like to add on one thing here. A very peculiar situation in which the fallout of the technology sometimes stops the system also to forces the system to take some steps which are against the technology. In the sense, like a couple of years back, if you remember in Kashmir, there was an incident of, people started stone throwing, patharbazi kind of thing. That became very notorious also. For so many days it continued, and it led to some kind of fall in tourism rates and everything. And at that time the government was forced to ban the usage of SMS services in the valley. And similar was the case, we had to even force to stop the usage of social networking sites for a moment. There was a situation which was coming up some time back. So it is not by choice. Sometimes technology has to be stopped somewhere, because it can, yes, in some incidents it helps also. But many a times in sensitive areas like a state like ours, where actually there is an influx of so much of anti-social activity, and there is a danger of public loss in terms of life and everything, like due to militancy and such things. You have to take some evasive measures also. That doesn't necessarily mean that we are not for technology. But for the circumstances and the reasons, technology needs to be given a kind of haltage for a time. It didn't stop. Obviously, the services got resumed again, and that too in a better manner, more efficient manner, in a foolproof manner. Like government has taken few steps to have a check on such services in the state. But then, yes, these incidents and these situations help. But moral fabric, I fully agree. There can be no force, no law. There can be no system in place. Being in the government for so much time, I would definitely say no government in the world, no force, nothing can happen forcefully unless and until the mind, the psyche of the people gets back into shape, and the youngsters, especially the younger lot, starts realizing the value of their existence and what's happening and where to head. Not only, I would say that coming for a movement for a short time, for a few days at India Gate or something is going to solve the problems.
Thank you,
basically
Mr.
psyche.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Mr. Utpal, I'll give you the last, the opportunity to close this discussion because you've thrown the cat among the pigeons. Yes,
Sure.
sir, really last question. I'll request you to keep it short.
In Haryana Assembly, the laws were passed for last 10 years in 10 minutes, and people are not worried to what it is. That the education is the one part. The legislation we are talking about, MLA, MP were sending the parliament, the legislation, they are not educated. They are by different means they are gone. Your media is not to rely upon because they are all paid news are there. Now in such a situation, what a common man can rely upon, where he should go, where he should go. The social networking, ICT is playing, in my opinion, is playing a great role to educate the people for right thing. This is my, what do you say about it?
You see, you need a villain around. Without a villain, maza nahi aata. Debate bhi nahi banti, TV pe bhi nahi banti, yahan bhi nahi banti. So I'm happy to play that role. You see, the point being made here is that, you see, there are, one, I'm not a journalist, so I'm not going to defend journalism at all because last 3 years I'm working in an academic institution called CSDS. Okay. For the first part that you raised at the back, definitely, I mean, what you need in terms of what I said basically is that you need first an enabling environment, some kind of a brick and mortar base on which you can hold your systems in which the technology can play a central role. Unless you have that kind of infrastructure in place, that technology can actually give you counterproductive results. For instance, in case of, say, a rape victim, there are no marks for guessing. Everybody knows that, it was a failure of the reaction time, the way the cops, deal with things. First 15 minutes or 10 minutes are most crucial for, trauma kind of service to a victim. Those, minutes were lost. We know that it was a failure of transport system, failure of the public transport system where there were no buses available, failure of auto rickshaws that they deny and don't take you anywhere. It was also a failure of the way the doctors respond. Now we know from the ZTV interview of the friend of the victim that he was lying for 4 days, not for a few hours, on a stretcher in the police cell of Safdarjung Hospital, and he was not attended to for 4 days. For God's sake, it's such an important issue. So once again, it's an issue of the way we treat people at our hospitals. It's an issue of lighting in public places. It's an issue of what kind of vigilance we keep. So here we are saying there are a lot of issues where everything is connected to everything else, where we can't give or we can't better hide behind technology, saying that this is the magic bullet. We all know that technology will help and should help. After all, it has made a big difference in the lives of people. The second thing about the Haryana thing, this figure has been given by a very interesting man called C.V. Madhukar. He heads PRS at the CPR, Center for Policy Research. It's a Parliamentary Research Service. It has no full name anymore. And they track how the work that MLAs and MPs do. I have absolutely no problem with illiterate people becoming MLA and MP. They are the representative of the people. Sometimes I know they are less corrupt than our, Doon school educated politicians who are not satisfied with 25,000 crores. I mean, the worth of many ministers, probably in the present government and the governments in the past, is in thousands of crores. So I have no problems with an illiterate being there. He actually brings in a lot of common knowledge about seed systems, about soil health, about a whole lot of things in rural life. So the problem is of systems. Once you have a participation embedded in technology use, then it works wonder. Say for instance you have a matrix that is there in many countries. I give the example of we are studying 5 countries, looking at their pre-legislative transparency, and the best to me are the systems in Britain, Canada and South Africa put together. And the gist of it is that first, you do not leave legislation to legislators. Remember, the rule of law, the basic rule of thumb is that we have a neighboring country which has left national security to generals, and they've made a mess of it. Hamare yahan topi wale, they decide where the army is going to go, and we are doing a lot better. So we can't, the way we can't leave national security to generals, we can't leave economics to economists either. We need some people to show basic common sense, political common sense and ground knowledge. That, boss, I understand what you are talking about, the macroeconomic and the world situation, but the fact is that so much money is being wasted in this thing, whereas, a very simple thing, like we think in silos. Money has come to the village through the line department for eradication of some disease, for Choti Mata. And there is malaria in the village. Now there is no way that Sarpanch can use this money for that. So what we are saying is that build in systems of participation and use technology at the local level in a decentralized, devolved way. And that is where you will be able to take the best advantage of technology, rather than in a highly centralized system where you say cash transfer from tomorrow and the whole country gets cash transfer from Delhi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mudgal, and thank you for playing the role of the villain. I'm heartened to see that the thin numbers didn't stop us from having a lively discussion.